Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I've been investing in real estate for 8 years. So, today I want to talk about, San Francisco. And, for those who don't know, I actually lived in San Francisco before I moved to LA. And I actually own a house there. I lived in the house there that I house hacked. It's a makeshift duplex where the upstairs unit is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, which I rent to Section 8. And then the lower unit is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, which I rent to a family. And because it's a makeshift duplex, the water meter, electric, gas is all covered by me. It's not separated. So I bake in the utilities into the rent. And obviously, if they don't pay utilities, of course they're going to blast the AC, they're going to blast the heater, or there's no AC in San Francisco, they're going to blast the heater. They're going to use water to their desire, and they don't care there's a water leak. And the landlord gets a nice $1,100 or $1,500 water bill when it's triple what I'm normally used to getting, and I have to call and troubleshoot and see what's going on, right? But when I was there, so I sent my dad over there. He troubleshooted the toilet issue. It was a very easy fix. It was just the water level in the back was too high. So because of that, water kept on flowing and going to the tube down to the main bowl. So he just moved it down and it fixed the issue. And now he saved me from wasting water, right? Because California's in a drought, apparently. But when he was there, he noticed that there was so there's a townhouse next to my house, and then next to that townhouse is an empty lot. And in that empty lot, he noticed a lot of homeless people hanging out, and he noticed kind of an RV or a car there where, clearly someone homeless was living there. You can usually tell because there's a bunch of junk in their car, on top of their car, around their car, and they're living there. And, when he talked to the tenant, he mentioned that the tenant says that the homeless people would go around and use the garden hose from a lot of the neighboring properties there to take a shower, to do their dishes, to wash their clothes, to do whatever they need. It's free water, right? Amazing, free water. So they would go around and they might damage the garage, they might damage the mailbox, they might throw trash everywhere. It just makes it feel very unsafe for whoever's living there, including my tenant. So and then, so the funny thing was the tenant knew this, but I'm like, okay, if you know this, why is there just a hose sitting in front of the house? If you leave the hose in front of the house, I hate to say it, you're encouraging them to use it. Because, the homeless people, they don't have water, right? They need water to live. So they're probably drinking from it, using it to shower, using it to cook, using it to clean. So of course they're going to use it if you leave it out, right? To me, that's common sense. So she knew that they were using it. She knew they were using it, but didn't think to just take away the hose. But even if there's no hose, the homeless people can get their own hose and plug it in and shower, right? So we were looking into getting some type of blockage device, so you just kind of block them from using it. But if they want to use it, they can screw it off or whatever, and then plug in the hose to then water the plants, or do whatever they need to do, like wash the car. But my suspicion was that they probably weren't really. It just was there, right? When I lived there. I remember when I lived there, I had a homeless guy hop our wooden fence and then use the hose there. And then when, my lower tenant that was there confronted them saying, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh yeah, the prior owner let me use it. So, these homeless people are very entitled, right? They think the land is theirs and because they've been living there longer than me, which might be true, right? So they get entitled, they get territorial, unfortunately. But it's not their property, and obviously, we can call the police, and, unfortunately, they don't do anything. The tenant told me that, the neighbors would, notify the police that, these homeless are taking a shower and making a mess in that area, and they do absolutely nothing, right? So welcome to San Francisco. You pay a bunch of property tax, and nothing happens, right? So that's the growing frustration of, San Francisco, and probably similar to, LA, that people are frustrated with. But, so basically there's homeless people there. And I remember when I was living there, there's this homeless guy that was sleeping there in that lot. He was on a mattress, a twin size mattress, but he was actually pretty low key. I remember he would walk around and sing, kind of opera singing. So I thought he was an opera singer, because every morning I'd hear him kind of opera sing around 8 a.m. and he'd walk around. I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. San Francisco, it's kind of artsy. But then one day I was walking to the metro station and I was like, oh wait, it's that same guy who sings, and he's just sleeping there on a mattress with a little cardboard box above his head. So he was homeless, but he was respectful. And I remember when I was also there was like this RV that parked there, and I remember like they just had the door open, and then when you walk outside, sometimes they have like their chihuahuas run out, and like kind of they'll be yappy and barky at you, and then you look in like, oh, what's going on in there? But probably some homeless guy there. So you have a homeless guy living in the lot, and you have a homeless guy living in an RV. I guess I don't know what's better, but anyways, they would throw a lot of trash out there and do whatever. So maybe apparently it's gotten worse over the past 3 years, which I believe. Like during COVID, I think homelessness got a lot worse in LA. Like I remember like living in Santa Monica at one point, and people would tell me like, damn, like pre-COVID, Santa Monica, downtown LA was good, and now it's like terrible because there's so much homeless, and they're more entitled, and I hate to say it, but I think we allocate, like California allocates billions of dollars towards homelessness, but nothing gets resolved. In fact, it gets worse, right? Like if you literally just took $1 billion and divided it up amongst all the homeless people, like there's no way they cannot not be housed, right? So clearly there's probably a lot of fraud going on, right? There's probably some like CEO of some like NGO, non-government organization that's getting a lot of money trying to solve homelessness, quote unquote, but he's getting like $1 million salary to solve this, and then they're probably just handing out like food and needles and clean needles and clean paraphernalia so that they can do their drugs, right, with clean needles. So to me, they're not incentivized to solve the problem, because if these homeless NGOs solve the problem, well, what happens? That CEO that loses his nice salary, right? He loses his income. So there's no incentive to solve it, right? And I'm sure a lot of people are making money from it. So there's a lot of fraud going on. I'm pretty sure of that, right? But what's disheartening for me is that, like, okay, I pay income tax, I pay property tax, I pay all these taxes, right? Because I work at W-2, and then like nothing gets in better, right? Like you would think that like, hey, I own this property, I pay these tax, I pay $12,000 a year to property tax. Like you would think like they would make an effort to clean up the homelessness for people, but they don't. So that's what's pushing me to want to sell this property, right? I don't want to be owning a property in this area where they don't care about homelessness. So that's why I wouldn't buy in San Francisco or like in the main parts of LA, because it's just too much homeless, and probably nothing's gonna be done about it, right? Because in my mind, homelessness is it's not homelessness issue, it's not a housing issue, it's a drug use issue. Like most of these homeless people, fortunately are on some sort of drugs, and I think that's the majority. It's probably like 90% of the homelessness in San Francisco and LA. They're just doing drugs. But unfortunately, it's making areas like San Francisco, LA, Santa Monica terrible, and not a place you want to be, right? So that's why I bought where I live in San Gabriel Valley, because it's less homeless there versus like living in the heart of LA, heck no, or Santa Monica, heck no. And even San Francisco, I'm like, where I own San Francisco is not in the heart, it's more in the outskirts, but even then homeless trickle everywhere, right? So it's just so sad that like it's the homeless are so entitled, they think they own whatever is there, it's theirs, and you call the cops do nothing, so you're stuck as a landlord. And it's hard to run the business, because like now if there's a bunch of homeless people don't want to live there, and now you have more vacancy, and if you try to sell it, it's harder to sell, because who wants to buy next to a homeless camp unless they like living in San Francisco? So that's what I'm saying. Like for me, the moment the tenant leaves, then I'd put up to market, and of course I just made a non-urgent police report to San Francisco saying, hey, there's like homeless using utilities here. I doubt they're gonna do anything about it, but at least I have it documented, and I tried my best in terms of that. But yeah, there's just basically a bunch of homeless people doing this, and it's sad, right? Because San Francisco is nice, LA is nice too, but the homelessness is ruining it. And like I said, once again, I think despite the billions and billions being allocated to homelessness, these NGOs are not incentivized to fix the problem, because the moment they fix the problem, they lose their job. And I think it's more of a drug issue. Like I said, like the fact that we allow these people to use like fentanyl or meth for illegal drugs, and there's no consequences, versus in a hospital, if we catch an employee, whether a nurse, a doctor, or pharmacist, or pharmacy staff stealing fentanyl, well, shoot, you're gonna lose your job and you're gonna lose your license. But you can see a homeless guy doing fentanyl and whatever, it's okay, we'll give you a new needle, right? So to me, it doesn't make sense. And I remember what rubbed me wrong about San Francisco as well is, okay, so literally one day, I remember my tenant put trash out, and she put a cardboard box with the shipping address on it on top of the box, and literally someone went around and wrote me a citation saying they're going to fine me $700 because I didn't put my recyclable inside the blue bin. And I was just like, this makes absolutely no sense. So San Francisco City is paying somebody, let's call it $80,000 to $100,000 a year, to go around and audit to make sure that the trash is inside the bin. When literally, like 10 steps away, there's an RV of a homeless guy living in there, and he's literally throwing a bunch of trash out there. It's like right there, right? And there's literally a homeless guy sleeping in his lot with a bunch of garbage there, and they don't care. Yet they're finding me, who's the homeowner, $700 because I didn't put the cardboard, or my tenant didn't put the cardboard inside the blue bin because it was full. She put it on top of it. Like, that seems so minor to me, right? I think this is why, like, stuff like this that the city does drives investors out, right? Like, I'm like, come on, like, I'm probably paying for this person to audit me, and now they're gonna try to find me when literally you walk 2 steps, 3 steps, and there's a bunch of garbage from this homeless guy living in his RV, and you're not gonna do anything about that, right? Or you're gonna let these homeless people do fentanyl in this, there, right? So, like, to me, it just so discouraging, like, seeing that. So that's why I like, would I buy in San Francisco? Would I buy in the heart of LA? Heck no, right? I would stay away from those areas, never buy there, right? That's why I buy in A-class areas in Huntsville, or better areas in Oklahoma, where they actually, do something about or not as much homeless. So, just super discouraging. I'm like, come on, like, this person, I don't mind paying for this person, but could they just help get these homeless people off the streets? Could they help them actually get the help and not do drugs anymore, instead of just handing them needles to do drugs? Like, give them solutions, right? Bring them on their detox, or if they don't detox, and unfortunately, just find a place to lock them up. Like, maybe you should spend $1 billion if you're doing illegal drugs and you get caught. There should be consequences, right? Instead of just being free to do what you want. So it's just super, like, discouraging. Like, when this stuff happens, I'm like, okay, you're punishing the people who are trying to do it right and make it better, and then you're rewarding those who are, like, milking the system and making it worse, for everyone else. So, super discouraging in that aspect. So yeah, it is probably a part of the reason why I want to sell, and also to outlier my portfolio. It's an older property as well, so there's many reasons to sell it, right? I don't like the politics of San Francisco. It's not landlord friendly. The area is declining, unfortunately, and maybe the desirability to live there is probably going down, right? Unless you have to live there. So yeah, super sad about San Francisco. It definitely is going downhill, and probably the same for LA. Like, I remember a lot of people that live in Santa Monica, once again, they're just like, yeah, pre-COVID this was amazing, and now it's just, you walk on 3rd Street Promenade, you walk on the pier, in the morning you see business owners just power washing the sidewalk because a bunch of homeless people are sleeping there and peeing there, and they're tweaking out on whatever type of drugs they're doing. And Santa Monica is a really nice city, right? It's right by the beach, and same with downtown LA. It used to be very vibrant, more artsy, and now people are leaving because it's just not safe, right? Too much homeless. So yeah, that's why, well, unfortunately, a lot of people are leaving California because you're paying a lot, and you're paying a lot just to be around a bunch of homeless people, unfortunately, depending on where you live, right? So, fortunately for me, I live in the nicer area of LA right now, but, I own a bunch of rentals. In Orange County, they enforce it a little bit better compared to LA. So, like I said, I would not buy rentals in LA with a 10-foot pole. And then same with San Francisco, like, had my fun there, lived there, got my experience there. But, unfortunately, it's going downhill, and if nothing gets done, it's only gonna be worse, because everyone knows, right? Hey, where do you go to get drugs? And they're okay with it. And, like I said, we're funding all these tax dollars. There's no results. I don't mind paying my taxes, but, if I'm held, liable to taxes, then, the government should be held accountable for how they spend their money, right? Or, like, hey, you're spending $1 billion per year. Like, is there any metrics to show that you've improved homelessness, right? Maybe there was a 10% reduction in homelessness. Great, I don't mind paying taxes, but if there's no accountability, then what's the point, right? Like, we're just throwing money out of the way. So maybe shame on me. Maybe I should go in politics so I can get paid a lot of money and a lot of corruption to do nothing and make money, right? So maybe I'm doing it wrong. So vote Stephen Nguyen for mayor of San Francisco, future mayor of San Francisco, right? Anyways, wanted to rant about San Francisco and share my experience of living in San Francisco and owning a rental in San Francisco, and it's unfortunate that it's going downhill. But anyways, let me know your thoughts about San Francisco or LA if you live in those areas. It's sad that's declining, but it is what it is. And just let me know your thoughts. If you want to join my school community, it's $30 a month, $1 a day. I do some live Q&As there. If you want to buy my multifamily course, I lowered the price to $300. It's 100 plus video modules to help you buy your first multifamily deal. If you want to be connected to my mortgage broker, Andrew, lending one, send me an email. My email is in my link tree. And lastly, Steadily Landlord Insurance. If you want to save on your landlord insurance policy, put in your address. They'll give you a call next business day with a quote. Hopefully you save money. I saved a couple thousand by switching to Steadily. So anyways, please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, because I post every single day at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Thank you so much. Have a good day.